So today it's not a CB radio, it's a business radio. It's a Tait 2000 Series 2. 2000 is a series of radios, like Ford Cortina was a series of cars. Whether the VHF and UHF and so on is down to the model number. This is a 2010 523, and as far as I am aware, that makes it UHF. And it has 4 channel capacity. These are available with various channel capacities. One of the things about business radio is that the UK government on the whole issue 1 channel for every 100 vehicles you want to communicate with. So if you're running a taxi outfit, if you've got 50 cars, you'll be given 1 channel. If you've got 105 cars, they'll give you 2 channels. If you've got 200 cars, 201 cars, they'll give you 3 channels, and so on. So that's why most business radios are single channel. The less buttons, the better. And he's worked very, very well indeed. Now he's programmed this for me, and he's put some useful channels in there. He's put SU19, which will be 433, 475 from memory. SU20, which will be 433.5, and SU21, which is 433.525. Then he's put my local amateur radio repeater, GB3GR, in there, which has got quite a wide split. I think it's 7.6 megs. That's 430 point something and 436 point something, if I remember. Anyway, so we've got the model number repeated on there. We've got the serial number repeated on there. He's bought some of these off eBay, and he's very, very kindly bought this for me. And he wants me to do a demonstration of how they're tuned. It's all right programming these, and they will work just programming them, but they'll be far from being up to their peak. It's like we do the new CB radios, and they come out with 3 watts and so on. So you need to set the levels, and later on down the line we need to put this microphone through the dishwasher. But it's a genuine Tait microphone, and that's nice. Now for the modular plug, just to annoy everybody. So the first thing we're going to do is open it up. These came out in the Series 2 came out in the late 90s, 2000 era. I suppose it's been replaced now, and it's one of the models that, as a business radio engineer, it's one of the models that we would see quite regularly. But we always see them VHF, and this is UHF. And he knows, the person who's given me knows that my interests lie in UHF as a radio ham. I'm not interested in HF. I'm not interested in SSB. I'm not interested in DXing, because to me, if I was on 10 gigs and got a contact 45 miles away, that's DX. So the best thing to do with these, when you take the lid off, is to take the board out and select a screwdriver that fits better than that. Some of these will have a modem in the back. For some businesses use data terminals. You know, they'll have a dashboard mounted LCD display with job details, whether they're plumbers or whether they're taxis or whatever. Quite a lot of people will do that. And this could well have had that, because the blanking plate's been removed, and it would mount on the 2 pillars. Some of them are simple as just 2 transistors on a board, and some of them are more complex. So you've got to be careful here, because this isn't wanting to come out. So the black wire there for the speaker got stuck round one of the other connectors. Now, back in the days when people were allowed to smoke, these connectors can get gummed up with nicotine, and so sometimes if you've got intermittents, it's prudent to pop those off, clean them with isopropyl alcohol, and pop them back. So we've got some important adjustments on this subboard here, like frequency and CTCSS level and ordinary deviation level, and then there's 1 or 2 other adjustments which we'll go through. So I'm going to we'll just do the initial look at how well it's working. I don't need to optimize it on the repeater, because I'm only 7 miles away from that, and although I'm in a bit of a hollow and I'm broadside into it, I think if we optimise this on calling channel, it might be more sensible. So I think that's what we'll do. So I'll put into the signal generator 433.55, and I should have turned background music down. You can hear an orchestra playing, which has gone to that. So amateur radio doesn't have to be done with expensive new radios that cost £2,000 upwards, and it doesn't have to be done with £20 Baofeng radios. It can also be done with £375 business radios that are now being replaced with other £375 business radios. So it's not the channels that cost money, and these are available in multi-channel, but it's the quality. These are made in New Zealand, and I think they're one of the highest quality radios that there are. And although I was a Maxon dealer at the time for business radio, I think Tait had the edge, but there you go. I prefer the Maxon radios. I don't know why. Do I prefer South Korea to New Zealand? I don't know. I don't get it, but there you are. So this has come with a power lead. The link in the power lead, the yellow link, is for an external speaker. So you can actually put some connectors onto there, and hey presto, you have got your extension speaker, because it does have a speaker in the front. So with that, I'll put it on the 18 amp power supply, because the radio is capable of 25 plus watts. We'll have it set for 25 watts when we actually get onto that. I'll plug the microphone in. So here we go. I'll select picture in picture, and it's a 25 watt radio. Let's see, as it's been programmed, and he's programmed it. Although I've got the software and an old 486 laptop to do it on, although I've got that, he's done it, and I don't need to go through that, because any of you who bought the software or bought the programming leads will no doubt know how to do it. So, key up. Oh, switch on. So, we started off on channel 1, and I'll just make sure which one we're talking about. I want channel 2. Right, we'll better plug this into the test equipment. It's BNC, because at UHF PL259s are a joke. In fact, they shouldn't even be on stuff. I don't think they should be on stuff above 120 megs. So it's doing 22 watts. It will do better than that when we come to it. So let's see how well it's receiving. That's interesting, I'm not getting any receive. Oh, I've got 433.55 instead of 433.5 dead. I must be in silly Billy mode. So let's just put our prod somewhere where we can pick up some audio. Yeah, so we'll put that on there when the time comes, and let's see what we're doing. Well, I'll tell you what, that's 0.3 of a microvolt, and I can hear that. So let's get a cyanide reading. So I'll move the camera over to the cyanide meter, and it's not lined up. There we go. Perhaps Mr. Chippy flicked the camera mount before he left. So for 12 decibel cyanide, right at the moment, this radio is doing 0.39 microvolts. So I'll get the service manual because it's a few months since I've seen one of those, and you all know by now that I've got a memory like a sieve. We need to set up the deviation, which I'll just see where that is. Again, we'll have to reset the test equipment because we're usually on 27 megs. He's spot on, it's 2.5, which is, you know, that's not lining up, is it? Wallow. So it's about 2.5, which is about where we need to be. It needs a little bit higher than we'd have for CB. So that's deviation's going to be alright. It's one of these, I can't remember which. Frequency, I think, is the multi-turn, and I think I can stick my neck out and say is the multi-turn. So we'll just go over to the frequency counter. So it should be 433.5. Of course, you know, it's spot on, isn't it, that? But we'll just trim it that little fraction. Wow. Right, well, that'll do me. 433.5. So we've done that. And say one of these is CTCSS and the other is, another one is DCS, another one is normal deviation. I will just have to look that up. So far, so good. He will have set the CTCSS, he says, for 71.9, which is what I want. So let's read that on the test equipment. Wallow. 1 2 1 2. And as you can see, he's set it for 71.9. We haven't got 3-digit accuracy. The fact it just says 72, we know we're there. When we're doing exacting work on CTCSS, we use a different test set, and we use a Lysis-U, which is where you're going to end up with a circle on the oscilloscope, and we're looking for a stationary circle for absolute accuracy, but this is near enough. Okay, I'll go and find the service manual and then we'll just tune this up together. Right, so I've printed off the relevant parts of the service manual. Seeing as it goes for about 400 pages. So the important things are the RV153, the squelch control, the FM detector L119 quadrature coil, and then we've got some front end tuning here. This radio is already very sensitive. So we've already covered frequency, normal deviation, CTCSS deviation. We're not going to touch dual point modulation. There's a procedure in there to deal with it. We're not going to touch the multiplier, which is there. Then high power maximum is through there. I'll just leave that on there. So I think I'll do receive first. I normally do transmit first, but under the circumstances we're different. So we need to disable the squelch, put it on channel 2. And I'll put that test prod like that. So we're looking at the cyanide. We'll drop that to a level And then we'll look at the Synad. Make it easy to tune. So that's already optimum. Already optimum. Already optimum. The manual covers all the models, so we've got this frequency range chart. Not all these are relevant for the UK, of course, New Zealand manufacturer. So going back to what we've got here, 2010 523, so it's 400 to 470, so it's well within the 77's capability. Very nicely, thank you very much. And with it being a 2010, it's 4 channel, but they do 24 channel to 100 channel, and then it tells us the switching range, and we only want it to switch what, 6.8 megs, something like that, 7.8 megs, whatever it is. So that's the models. And these are the adjustments and the things there. Now, so we'll go over to 100 microvolt, what would be on a CB&S9 signal, and we'll look at recovered audio because we need to set up L119, which is the detector or the quadrature coil. So I'll drop the bench light off and we'll select the oscilloscope. Turn the volume up so we've got decent enough trace, and I'll use the bigger tool for that. Wherever it's gone. So just like with the CB's maximum recovered audio, I think it was in the right position. Still not sure what we've got down there. L116 and 114. IF tuning, well, we don't need to touch it anyway, so that's fine. So we're still going to have the same Synad. So we'll go back to the Synad meter, put the bench light back on, turn the volume down a little bit. So we've now got 0.375 microvolts for 12 decibel Synad. So we've probably knocked, was it 3.8 before? You know, it's barely going to make any difference whatsoever. But we've optimized it, and that's what we wanted to check. So as far as receive goes, we'll do the squelch. So I've overridden it at the moment with the monitor button. So we'll go back to squelch operation, and we'll adjust the preset. So we can actually hear this right down to 0.14 of a microvolt. So I'll turn the signal generator off, set that for threshold. So we've basically got this coming in at 0.4 of a microvolt, and it's leaving at 0.2 of a microvolt. So we've got it very sensitive. On a ham radio, it's not ideal to have an automatic squelch, which are a preset squelch, but that's why we've got the front panel monitor button programmed so it is operable. On a lot of business radio systems, you will want to do that because you want to allow people to listen to other firms who may be sharing the same frequency. But as a ham radio, that's ideal. So that's covered that. So as far as transmit goes, on the Maxon sets that I'm used to, sometimes have to trim the transmitter finals. I don't think we do on this. So on the high power control RV324, and it's there. So going to transmit, and at the moment it's 22 watts, so it's capable of about 28, and we'll set it for 25, and I'm showing you all that, and there we have his full scale deflection is 30 just there, so that's 25, and at that point it's drawing about 5 amps. So that's absolutely fine. Now the Maxon PM150 is capable of 45 watts, whereas these are capable of 30, but this particular one's doing 27. But we don't normally set the Maxon PM150s again more than 25 watts. I don't like to thrash radios. CBers like to thrash radios. They usually turn them down, don't they, by fiddling with them. So that brings us to deviation. 1, 2. Wallow. 1, 2, 1, 2. So just bring that up a fraction. So deviation, we'll use our oscillator. 2.5. Wallow. That's fine. So we're fine with a good 2.5 on this, whereas on a CB we'd be erring on the 2.2 side. And then for CTCSS, now that's only going to be operable on the repeater channel. So we'll go to the repeater channel, channel 4. I'll have to retune the modulation monitor. Wallow. Now we've got far too high CTCSS. We've got the same 2.5 showing. We want 0.37. See, we can really ram that up. 1.37. So 2, 5, about there. Otherwise, it's going to be going. Whoa. So we don't want the repeater to have to filter that out. I've never seen one that high. Oh well. Obviously needed setting, and now it has been. So that's covered everything. Frequency, deviation, CTCSS. Just check the audio CTCSS. Wallow. That's interesting. Why is it more on this channel? He's probably set it to be more. Right, that's fine. We're done. So I think what we'll do is I'll go and look for an area we can put on a biscuit tin. Now the repeater's 7 miles away, so we've no Mr. Chippy, so on the air test we're just going to have to do like this. So I'll disconnect the extension speaker. So I don't know whether this is going to work at all. I can just get into the repeater. As I say, I'm 7 miles. I'm in the shadow of the hill, which the repeater's on top of 7 miles away. So it's it's like a lighthouse, and we can't see it. Mag mount inside on a biscuit tin is all I can do as a demonstration like this. The mag mount I put it on has a PL259, and at 430 megs, that's like an attenuator. So that should be snipped off and replaced with a BNC, to be honest. We may end up having to do that. I shouldn't be going through all these adapters. So we've got the radio on, we've got it on channel 4, which is, I'm going to have to put it there. So we'll just move the camera downwards, hopefully. See if his Stewart's out there. M0SDM from G0OJF. Do you read over? G0OJF for a quick radio test through GB3GR on a mag mount lash up. Over. Hello Andy, just doing a YouTube video, and I've just done a Tait 2000 business radio onto here, but I'm on the bench and we've got no aerials into the workshop, so I've just put a mag mount on the biscuit tin, and of course I'm the wrong side of the repeater, right down in a hollow. It's like a scratchy corner down here. So thanks for that report, Andy. Over.
Okay, and Nottingham G4IJL. Yeah, getting fine. Bit old school, that is. Biscuit tin and a mag mount.
Yes, and to the other station, was it G4IJL at Nottingham? Thank you for that. Okay then, Andy, I'll wind up the video. No smoke out of this radio, and it's doing 25 watts. Thanks for the test. Go again, the Nottingham caller. We've doubled over. Right, thanks everybody. G0OJF clear. Right, well that kind of doubled, so we've...
3 Richard 201 clear.
Thanks Andy 73. So of course the repeater's doing all the work. All we're doing is transmitting 7.5 miles up the road, or 8 miles, whatever it is, to a place called Cold Harbour. And I think Andy is... he's about 16 miles away, but of course it's not this radio doing that, it's the repeater doing that. Then the gentleman at Nottingham was going to be 35 miles away, who kind of doubled, but that's very welcome. So we know that even on a mag mount lash up, and even with that, which is honestly, if any of you are getting into amateur radio, and those of you on the 10 watt license, because this radio can be turned down, this repeater, like a lot of repeaters, has got a vast range. It'll work up to 100 miles in all directions, You know, so you get the right conversation. You can have somebody like Mr. Chippy in West Yorkshire talking to somebody in Norfolk. That's 200 miles between them via the repeater, and you're doing that just by getting in on you know, something like this, or even something like a cheap Baofeng or something, as long as you can get into the repeater. So, but for you getting into amateur radio, PL259s on UHF are an absolute no-no, and if I was using this as a permanent thing, that needs snipping off and replacing with a BNC, and I think I'm going to be doing that anyway, because we have no need to have mag mounts on a PL259. Even if we were using them on CB, I'd rather start off with a BNC if we're going to use mag mounts, and then put it on an adapter the other way. So there we have it. We have the Tait 2000 Mark II, kindly sent me by one of our viewers who I've also had some other dealings with, and I think it was a bit of a thank you for that as well. And it's been greatly appreciated, and we've got a nice radio there. And the other thing is, when you just, it's like we did the Tait 500 a few weeks ago. You know, if you can buy those for £8 and then sort them out, what did I have to do? Put 3 trimmers in it at 90p each. You know, if you can do that, you've got yourself a radio on a repeater for next to nothing, which is good quality. Instead of having to have a £500 radio or even an £80 Chinese radio, but something with a better capability, like lots of channels and lots of bands and all that kind of stuff, you're not holding it up for one purpose. So you can be monitoring that local repeater with a radio such as this, and I said they weren't cheap when they were new, and they're not rubbish quality. It's triple conversion receiver. You know, we're not talking about a bleed over box. So there we are. So I'll say thank you very much for the person who kindly gave me that once again, and we now have that Tait 2000 firmly on the frequencies he's set. Thank you for watching.